Ceslaus, time to start.
Okay, I think there was a host control there that snatched my microphone away from me for a moment. Hello, everyone. I am actually very happy to be seeing the amazing people from various parts of the world join this session, a special edition of the WikiAfrica Hour, titled Africa Environment Wiki Focus, which is facilitated by WikiAfrica and Wikimedia Cote d'Ivoire to celebrate the Africa Environment Day 2023 campaign. My name is Ceslaus Obonaya. You usually know me as the host of WikiAfrica's monthly Wikimedia Live discussion forum, WikiAfrica Hour. But today I'm wearing my other hat as the Wikimedian in residence who leads the implementation of the African Knowledge Initiative through African Union holidays, namely the Africa Youth Day 2022, which we've done successfully, the Africa Environment Day 2023, and Africa Day 2023. Today is indeed a special day. Today we celebrate the courage of those groundbreaking activists like Wangari Maathai, who beat the drums of alarm, warning us of the damage unfatal deforestation would do to Africa's future security. Today, we heed those warnings and ask what more needs to be done to make sure that our Africa remains rich and abundant for future generations. Wangari Maathai famously said, "Human rights are not things that are put on the table for people to enjoy. These are things you fight for and then you protect." Without further delay, let me introduce you to Anthony Onyekachi Ibe, our guest host for today. Anthony Onyekachi Ibe leads the audio and visual team at Africa Tech Radio, Africa's first online radio that is focused on covering technology in Africa. He believes that there are a lot of stories, perspectives, and angles to telling stories about tech or technology in Africa and as it impacts the African continent. And he is committed to working with anyone as committed to bringing these stories to the fore. In addition to telling stories about technology in Africa through Africa Tech Radio, Anthony also volunteers his time to improving his immediate community in Lagos, Nigeria, through civic advocacy. When he's not talking about technology in Africa, he's binging on poetry, music, and discussions with others. Please welcome him as he takes the floor. Hello, Anthony. Anthony, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Okay, hi Ceslaus. Hi everyone. It's really good to be here. I hope that you can hear me now, Ceslaus. Oh, beautiful. Thank you very much, Tatjana, for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. As Ceslaus has said, my name is Anthony Ibe from Africa Tech Radio, and I'm your guest host for this special edition of WikiAfrica Hour. Now, for many years, we were told that climate change was a hoax. And now many Africans are paying dearly for this negligence, from the droughts in Kenya that has continued for years, to cyclones in Mozambique and flooding in Nigeria, where I currently am. Extreme weather conditions are affecting the daily lives of people in all parts of the continent. The three places I just mentioned, just examples, and they represent people spread across the continent. Whose fault is it that we as Africans kind of like woke up late to these realities and to the effects of climate change, you may want to ask me? People have been asking for years too. What did COP27 and the other COPs before 27 do for the African continent? Should we leave the past behind and focus on the future, where we chart our own path, towards finding African solutions that are just peculiar to our African challenges? Do enough people know about the threats and the risk of climate change? Is the media reporting, or maybe the lack of media reporting, one of the key issues of climate change in Africa? What is maybe the African Union doing to help member states become more aware of climate change? What policies do we need to effect the change that we want, the change that we need to see? And are activists able to speak freely about these issues, these topics? Are their demands also being heard and being acted on? Because it's something to be able to speak, and it's another thing for you to be heard and for what you're speaking on to be acted on. How are people able to access up-to-date information and research data in a way that they can take in and understand? And what role can climate change focused projects from the Wikimedia movement play in giving Africa's curious population the knowledge that they need to make the right choices about climate change? Well, I won't be the one answering these questions. No. We have invited some very experienced professionals focused on climate change and environment across Africa to join us as we launch the Africa Environment Day 2023 campaign of the Africa Knowledge Initiative. And we have today with us Tatjana Baleta, a Wikimedia visiting fellow for Climate Global Systems Institute, the University of Exeter, United Kingdom. Let's type and say welcome to Tatjana. And we also have Tracey Anyango, the Programs Officer, Center for Justice, Governance and Environmental Action in Kenya. Please let's make welcome our special guests, and before we actually start engaging them today. Hi, Tatjana, how are you doing? Oh, yes, so just hold on a minute.
Thank you. Yes, I got it. I'm sorry, I just needed permissions to be enabled. Hello. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's great to be here. And yeah, I'm really excited for this discussion.
Beautiful. So I always ask how people say their names, and I usually like to hear people say their names the way it's supposed to be. So how do you say your name?
It's Tatjana. Pretend the J is a Y.
Oh, okay. And the surname?
Baleta.
Okay. So okay, I think that was fine. And we also have thank you. We also have Tracey, Tracey Anyango, Programs Officer, Center for Justice, Governance and Environmental Action in Kenya. Hi, Tracey. Yeah, so just give it a minute. I think you're going to be unmuted in just a second. Yeah, so you can try to unmute now. Beautiful, thank you.
Hi to you too. I'm excited to be here. Actually, it's a Friday today here and it's 7 p.m. right now. So I really deliberated if I should join or not. And I think this is a very meaningful discussion and it's a meaningful initiative that you guys are carrying out. So I said, okay, we'll just go with this. So sometimes I might turn my video off because there's a young one here. So please don't mind if I turn my video off. I think they might disturb me, but it's fine. And I'm excited. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, thank you. We will not be scared when we see that your video is off anymore because we know that you already said so. Okay, that's fine. That's okay. So welcome everyone. And immediately we're done with engaging with Tracey and Tatjana. We will have questions and interactions with Tracey and Tatjana. So let's have listening caps on and maybe where we can take notes so that we don't forget any points, any question, any comments that we're going to make. Now, Tracey, this is putting you on the spot at once. You're involved in the fight against, climate change and environmental degradation. Let's start with one statistic that has shocked you the most. Something you could not believe. Yeah.
I think one that has shocked me the most is that each year, and I learned this from a report, UNEP Frontiers report, that each year, that is between 2002 to 2016, an average of about 423 million hectares of the Earth's surface. That's like an area the size of the entire EU, European Union, banned. And this it's becoming more common in forest and savanna ecosystem. And out of this area, an estimated 67% banned by all types of fires, that is including wildfires, was on the African continent. So this really shocked me because you find that these are among the wildfires are among the effects of climate change that you're witnessing right now. And that to consider Africa is not like among the biggest contributors or rather emitters in the globe, that we get to suffer the most is really, it's really shocking that we can see this even on the statistics being presented. So yeah, that really shocked me.
Okay, that would shock anybody. Tatjana, what do you think? Which would it be for you?
For me, my statistic that I found particularly shocking is that at least 1.2 billion people could be displaced by climate-related events by 2050. And that comes from an Australian think tank, the IEP. And yeah, I mean, it's quite terrifying to contemplate the amount of climate migrants and climate refugees that will come out of this environmental crisis that we're witnessing right now. And Anthony, I think, you mentioned a number of extreme weather events in your opening speech. And I mean, yeah, Cyclone Idai, what's happening in the Sahel region at the moment, where temperatures are rising 1.5 times faster than the rest of the world. I mean, we can see that this is happening now. These crises are happening now. And to contemplate the fact that so many people will be displaced in a few decades' time is quite frightening.
For me, it would be the World Health Organization, the WHO, saying that 1 in 3 people across Africa already face water scarcity. And when I think of the drought in Kenya and some other places in East Africa. And I just look out my window now and it's about to rain here in Lagos, Nigeria. I can't just place them, side by side, right? And that just tells us how important this discussion that we're having today is. And we will just get into the details of these things as we progress in the discussion. So Tatjana, please, from your own end, if you're going to introduce yourself, how would you do it? Give us a brief intro, what you do and what you're involved in.
Thanks. Yes. So I'm from South Africa. I'm an environmental researcher, conservationist, and science communicator. And I am currently the Wikimedia Visiting Fellow for Climate at the Global Systems Institute at the University of Exeter. And basically what this means is that I work with the GSI and the University of Exeter's researchers to update and improve climate change knowledge on Wikipedia. This involves running editathons. I work directly with a number of experts to review Wikipedia articles on climate change. And I'm also working with a number of media organizations to get some new climate change related media uploaded onto Commons.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. And what would you say, working, doing this work, the most challenging thing you've noticed in relation to the work that you do?
So I think I'll answer that question sort of perhaps maybe speaking generally from the sort of perspective of like the kinds of things that any Wikipedia editor editing on climate change might face as well. And I think, editing on climate change can be tough, especially if you are getting into a lot of technical and scientific details. It can be quite challenging to distill research, but I'm quite encouraged by the fact that there's lots of opportunity for non-experts to contribute. There's a lot of value that one can add to climate change pages, such as, that is a bit sort of easier and more manageable tasks like updating old statistics, replacing old citations, adding page numbers to citations, translating good quality articles into other languages, which is a big one for accessibility. And yeah, writing about climate change in your own community, your own country. And yeah, things are changing fast. There's new research. We're seeing new impacts of climate change all the time, and hopefully new solutions. So because there's a lot of movement there, I think sometimes it can also be a bit challenging to keep climate change pages up to date. And out-of-datedness is one of the primary ways that climate change misinformation can occur, at least on English Wikipedia. Sometimes there's, knowing what's important to include and what is sort of superfluous for Wikipedia can take a bit of learning. So I think that can be a challenge as well. But, the fact that there are these existing communities of editors like the Wiki Project for Climate Change who have, through their own volition, self-organized to tackle climate change and improve that knowledge on Wikipedia, I think is very encouraging, very inspiring, and it's also a great place to go and find out what you can do to help as well on Wikipedia as an editor.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. Tracey, for when I introduced you, I said you're from the Center for Justice, Governance and Environmental Action. But tell us more about the work that you do and what the Center for Justice, Governance and Environmental Action in Kenya does.
Okay, so Center for Justice, Governance and Environmental Action was founded in 2012, and it's a non-governmental organization that works in advocating for the environmental and human rights of marginalized communities that reside around toxic sites and industries in the coastal region of Kenya. And basically, we work to address linkages between environment and the environmental justice and human rights. And so we host a network in Kenya, a national network of land and environment defenders. And the network is made up of about 40 civil society organizations and about 80 individual land and environment defenders. So we work closely with the network when it comes to identifying environmental injustices, be it by polluting companies or just negligence by the state agencies mandated to protect the right to a clean and healthy environment for the citizenry. Yeah, and annually, actually, we do host conference annually for the network. And in the conference, we get to choose thematic areas that we focused on. And actually, coincidentally, this year, and we do it around June. So hopefully we do it again this year in June. And coincidentally, our thematic area is on climate change and how we can foster synergies and build partnerships, that is between CSOs, the private sector, political aspect in Kenya, how we can work together to address climate change and the crisis that we are currently facing as a country, as a continent, and the whole world at large. Yeah.
Great work, I must say. When it comes to activism that is related to environmental action, using Kenya as an example, how would you describe, the state of activism and the policies that are being passed or discussed by the government?
The civil space is, I think it's kind of shrinking a bit because, there are so many challenges that activists face, be it environmental activists or human rights activists or any other type of activist. The government doesn't want citizenry to cause unrest, in quotes, and that is to stand up in case there are any violations of their rights. So they face criminalization. The land and environment defenders get arbitrarily arrested, trumped up charges against them in courts. Some of them even go to exile. And one of our LED is in exile right now because just one developer is very adamant on basically frustrating her efforts towards environmental justice in the area that she works in. She works in conservation area. And one other LED has so many cases in court. We support her, of course, as an organization that has been put up against her by a polluting company that recycles oil in their village. The coast of Kenya is, I don't know why, but there's so many investors running to set up companies in the outskirts of coastal areas. And so many of them really set up without regards to the environmental and human rights of the residents. So when these residents turn up and be vocal about any pollution or any wrongdoings by these companies, then they are termed as criminals. They are anti-development. So you get many industries. We have cement manufacturing industries battery recycling industries. There are just so many, that iron, mining industries, based in, like there's so much going on in terms of setting up plants in the coastal parts of Kenya. That is in the South Coast, North Coast, and then in Mombasa is really central. So Mombasa is like they set up in the outskirts of Mombasa. So that is how actually, again, how Center for Justice came about, because by then in 2012, there was a lead recycling company that was set up in the outskirts of Mombasa in a place called Owino Uhuru. So this manufacturer set up, and they were given licenses, by state agencies to proceed and do this without proper mitigation plans or risk analysis set up by the company. So they polluted the area, the environment, the residents in that urban informal settlement were affected health-wise. And so that is how Center for Justice came in, and through our AD Phyllis Omido, we put up a case against the government agencies, that is Ministry of Health, National Environmental Management Authority of Kenya, the AG, all the responsible state actors, and the company as well in 2016. And it took 4 years for judgment to be rendered. And in 2020, that is, the court ruled and was in favor of the community members and awarded compensation for them for the health and environmental and environmental violations and human rights violations, and also awarded compensation for cleanup of the area. So that's how we came about, and still now it was appealed, and when it was appealed in 2020 by Export Processing Zone Authority in Kenya, a state agency that is mandated to bring investors in Kenya, who brought in the company in Kenya, appealed. National Environmental Management Authority also appealed. So we get two state agencies that really are not seeing the damage they have already caused to the people, still appealing judgment. And until now, we're waiting for the ruling of the judgment in 17th March, this March. And this is after it has been postponed like thrice now. So the civil space is really doing its job, but the space is shrinking, as I just said earlier. And in terms of policies in Kenya, environmental policies, that have been established. We have the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, the EMCA Act, which is a framework on environmental management and conservation, and it establishes institutions that are mandated to conserve and protect the environment. And that includes what the one I'd mentioned earlier, that is the National Environment Authority, NEMA. We have the Public Complaints Committee, National Environment Tribunal, county environment committees. So all these work together to conserve and protect environmental rights of Kenyans.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for
bringing okay. I might end up talking a lot, and please, you can just tell me when to stop. It's fine.
Okay, I will. It's been very educative because I think just before COP27, I spoke to two entrepreneurs, right? I would call them entrepreneurs within the plastic waste space from Kenya. And there was a lot. We had a good chat, and there were lots of things I had to learn from that particular chat. But then I'll hold my thought a bit and go to Tatjana. Tatjana, the issue of climate change, right? Would you say that it's a controversial one to document on Wikipedia? Do you think it's a tough topic also? Maybe what are your reasons if you're saying yes, or if you're saying no? what are the whys?
Yeah, so I guess if I understand correctly, I assume so when you sort of say controversial, I guess the process of editing might be, you might come up against some sort of combative experiences. So climate disinformation and denialism is less prevalent on English Wikipedia now, but it is easier to find on other language Wikipedias. In the past, I think there was a sort of spate of these kinds of things, but the fact that there are these, very strong group of dedicated editors to editing climate change, I think they sort of really barred any of those kinds of fake news edits staying on Wikipedia. I think, at least on English Wikipedia now, there's little or no evidence of coordinated efforts to spread climate change misinformation. But I'd really like to know, perhaps from our audience, if you edit on other language Wikipedias or have used other language Wikipedias, if you've noticed any climate disinformation, misinformation, or denialism on other language Wikipedias. I'd love to hear from you in the chat. It'd be really interesting to see. I guess I think that perhaps another thing worth mentioning is that, like, because there is a strong core of dedicated editors, they are people who have kind of dealt with climate denialists in the past, which means that people are the editors are quite like on guard to see if anything sort of suspicious pops up. So I think that if you're sort of editing on climate, the most important thing really is to be transparent. Create a user page for yourself. If you're wanting to propose longer talk, if you're wanting to do longer edits on articles, then utilize the talk pages. And that way you can sort of have conversations about what you're planning to do, and collaborate with other editors. And I think sort of following those simple guidelines, which are kind of standard for Wikipedia anyway, means that you'll have a much better time editing. So in the past there have been editing wars with disinformation and denialism, but it doesn't really happen on English Wikipedia anymore. I'm going to have a hunt in the chat now to see if anyone's said anything. Nothing so far, but yeah, if anyone has any observations from other language Wikipedias, would love to hear from you.
Okay, and if you would speak to the amount of information on climate change that is available on the continent, right? What would you say is the most challenging about this information being on Wikipedia, especially as it relates to information about climate change in Africa, on the continent, and the effects of climate change?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really important question, because Wikipedia does suffer from systemic bias. Who edits and what they choose to edit about, of course, affects the level and the amount of content that is available on Wikipedia. So even though one strives for neutral point of view and broad content coverage, because of the systemic bias, that may not always be the reality. I think the important thing to remember is that Wikipedia only works if the editing community is large and, very importantly, diverse. So because of the systemic bias, Wikipedia does underrepresent the perspectives of people in the global South. Things like people who use mobile devices, just because of the way that the platform is designed. and people who don't have the free time to spend editing the encyclopedia. Another aspect is also around Wikipedia's got very strong sort of rules and guidelines around what makes a reliable source, very naturally so. And, some sources might not be very easily available online or in English, for example, if you're editing on English Wikipedia. So I think because of that, sometimes we do see content being skewed, but I think that that's also why it's important to, that events like this event that is being launched today and this initiative around actually telling people that their Wikipedia exists. There's an opportunity here for you to engage with this platform, to share knowledge, to improve the climate change knowledge that's relevant to your community, your country, your continent, and to really, I think, emphasize, a lot of the solutions for climate change are not one size fit all approaches. I think a great example is the sort of tree planting and the nuance around that in certain African contexts, and why you sort of maybe need to adapt that approach, or perhaps that approach doesn't always work in all African contexts. So that's why it's so important to have African editors that are highlighting research about Africa, research done by African researchers on the platform. There's been some really cool initiatives in the past, like Wiki for Climate, which was an editathon that happened, I think, in Cape Town in South Africa, also focused on climate change with a number of African researchers. And yeah, I mean, I think, again, I mentioned it previously, but making the information available in other languages, and just to increase the accessibility of that information is really important as well.
Thank you very much, Tatjana. And Tracey, my last question, or the last thought we had was, you mentioned the government might just sometimes have a hand in the policies or the decisions they make directly accelerating environmental degradation, sometimes in the name of industrialization or opening up a particular place. And Wangari Maathai would say the generation that destroys the environment is not the generation that pays the price. So a different generation pays the price. How do you think that we can limit the risk, move beyond blame into action? And then what policies do you think the government, using Kenya as an example, what policies do we need to effect the change that we need to see? You can speak now, yes.
What we need, actually, we already have the policies. I think it's just strengthening of these policies in terms of implementation, as well as the technical capabilities of these implementers of these policies. And also having watchdog for the government. That, of course, CSOs are already playing that role, but I think also international bodies do so. And I feel also they need to scale up the interventions that they put when it comes to monitoring government's adoption of international treaties on climate change. So I think the work is on us as citizenry. The work is on us, is on the people we put forward to carry out these responsibilities on our behalves, the people we elect, our politicians. You know, they are the lawmakers. In Kenya, the parliament is the one that enacts laws and policies. So we really need to vet the people we put in there in order to get the best out of the policies that have been already drafted, because the policies are already there. It's just the implementation and the people implementing that are failing us. You know, in Kenya already, we already have a progressive constitution, 2010, that was promulgated in 2010. It guarantees the right to a clean and healthy environment. It guarantees, under the Bill of Rights, it guarantees equal, how is it called? It got, just by the fact that you are a citizenry and a human being, you are guaranteed your rights. So when we find that state agencies are really failing the people because, one, they are issuing permits to companies, polluting companies or industries just because they have been given something small under the table, and you know they are willing to sacrifice their citizenry. You know, it's really devastating. It defeats the whole purpose of these policies. You know, when we have implementers that are not keen, or when we lack the political goodwill from the government to implement these policies and to ensure that we realize the right to a clean and healthy environment, as well as human rights, are adhered to. So basically, what I think we really need to improve on as a continent is that we need to upscale our efforts in the department of, that is, in terms of state actors. Each actor has their roles that they play in mitigation of climate change and its impacts. That is the state, the private sector, the civil societies. So each sector has to play its role accordingly so that we may come to realize the benefits of these policies that we set place, because you realize that there are so many conferences being organized. COP27 recently happened and resolutions were made, but you realize that this year, 2023, another COP28 will happen. And when they go back there, they don't discuss like what progress have we made with the resolutions we made last time. And you see, that sense of accountability, I think it's what we really lack. Because once there's no accountability, nobody would really put effort into doing what was stated. You know, governments will be reluctant to adopt these international policies, the multilateral environmental agreements. They'll be reluctant to do so because no one is really like putting pressure upon them that, hey, you signed this in this and this year, so why are we seeing your government setting up a coal plant in Lamu? If here in Coast there was something that was causing an uproar, Coast is really, it's in the semi-arid part, but it's really enriched, I think. And also the people, when you lack information about something, you are easily vulnerable to manipulation, So someone comes, sells an idea to you, but because you don't have enough information to know, to establish whether this is something that is credible or they're just coming with malicious intent, so you really can't make an informed decision. So the other day, you see, the government has approved license, through NEMA, the National Environmental Management Authority of Kenya, for some, who is it called? There's some company that is exporting baobab trees to Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. You come to Kenya, you're given license, you uproot indigenous baobab trees and export them to the US just because they want a display. You know, it really doesn't make sense. It caused an uproar, and the civil society raised their voices on this. It was halted for a while. And then recently again, they are back at it. And then you know what they're giving the community members? Like 300,000 Kenya shillings. That's about maybe 3,000 USD. That's like the shared, what is it called? Profits or something that they're supposed to do. So you see, these people are not really, they don't know the impact of uprooting this large, you know, the baobabs are really big, and you can find some that are really massive. So these people don't really know the importance that these baobabs are playing in the ecosystem. So whenever, and you know, because of their financial status, they would really not be keen about climate change, yet they don't have food on the table. So they might give out this consent for these baobabs as a community because they have to get the community consent. So they give them this little money, and these baobabs get uprooted. And it's sad that the government that all the time says they're really committed to protecting the environment, protecting biodiversity, gives a consent for this to be done. For what? You know, the gains actually are less than the loss will be facing in the next 10 years in cost. Cost is already dry. You know, we already have like there's some parts that they're really suffering as at now because of drought, you know, water scarcity, the temperatures are rising. Right now, I think it's like 32 degrees. So it's becoming hot. And so this uprooting of these old indigenous baobab trees really does more harm for the people in the long run. So, and the reason why I'm saying we need political goodwill, we need watchdogs, that is, be it international bodies, the CSOs, we really need everyone on board for these policies to work, because there's no way governments will be ratifying treaties to protect climate and in efforts to mitigate impacts of climate change and climate change adaptation, but at the same time, their actions really betrays whatever they are saying. So we really need accountability so that people do what they're supposed to do. And that is just a few of the cases. Yeah, there are so many things that are going on that really is not for the cause of climate adaptation. So we just need, we don't need more policies. We need implementers of these policies to have the goodwill, to be held accountable so that we can see the results of the already existing policy.
Okay, and if you're going to speak to an African who is watching on the part that they have to play as individuals in, you know, how would you speak to one person who can also in their habits or, you know, their daily living try to effect some of these changes?
I think there's strength in collective responsibility, and collective responsibility starts with an individual. Yeah, so I think every person just has to get it in them that right now it's really getting worse for us. We can see this through the rising temperatures, the prolonged droughts. In case of floods, like it's going overboard. So I think each and every one of us really needs to change our way of life, change our behaviors, so that we can all get to at least reduce these impacts, if not all of them. We can begin with our daily lives. You know, it might seem really minute or something small, but the effort goes a long way, like changing your consumption, changing your usage of, let's say, plastics, if you're going to the beach, most of us here go to the beach. If you're going to the beach, then carry let's say reusable water bottles. I think just the little things we do, even in the household, just limit. Sometimes it might be difficult to eliminate every plastic in your household, but just let it be that you're using it because, okay, it's the last resort. Yeah. So I think I would advise an individual to just get the information first, understand what is climate change, and that's why it's really good that Wikimedia has embarked on this activity, so someone at least can get the information. They know what climate adaptation is, what they need to do. So in the doing of those little things and changes that you make in your lifestyle, it makes a whole community, and we can see changes in the long run. So each and every person just try within your means or your best to adapt to practices that are environmental friendly or eco-friendly. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And just, I think these will be final thoughts. What do you think about Wikimedia's coverage of climate change in Africa as a subject? Because Wikipedia articles are read about 284 million times every month by Africans. And it's really an important way for people to access factual information about anything of interest. Just like this, the one you just given the example of, they're putting up our trees and taking them somewhere else. Totally ridiculous, right? But what do you think also can and should be done, within the community to put the word out and to ensure that these amount of times, that the articles and information are being consumed, we also have a lot of these information also on Wikipedia?
As I just said earlier, information is power. Information is power, and when people have access to information, at least they can leverage on this to make better informed choices and decisions. So you see, like in the case of baobabs being uprooted, they go to the communities where they have limited, no education at all. And this is not to say that they are primitive or something, no. It's just that they know these people will not understand why we are doing this, and they don't understand anything about climate change. They might see it, but because they don't have somewhere where they can get concrete information on how this appears in real life, then they don't understand that concept. But if these community members, someone came to them and told them, do you know why right now coconuts production is not as it was before? Right now, there are less coconuts, being harvested. And someone asked them, do you know why that is so? Then they say, oh, there's too much sun, now there's no rain. So with this, they instigate their brains to start thinking, yes, they've not gone to school, but of course, this is a phenomenon that they are witnessing. So when someone tells them, okay, this is happening because of this, this, and this, and it's called climate change. And the ways you can reduce this is by protecting the environment, conserving afforestation, practicing proper agriculture, and this will create a better world for us. Then when an investor comes and they want to uproot their trees, they'll say no, because the price we'll pay for this will be higher than what you're giving us, the amount of money you're giving us. So basically it's spreading the information everywhere. And I think that we really need to think of ways where we can get this information to the how, I don't want to say, I'm lacking a better word, but to those who do not really understand this concept in terms of the schooled people perspective. Like, we need to find ways to pass information to them in the grassroots. level and in the local ways they understand, because maybe some might not be able to read this on Wikimedia. So I think each one of us in this platform, because we know better, let us take it within us and as an initiative to educate our rural people, or rather, for lack of a better word, people that we know in our rural areas, because as Africans, we have our rural homes and we have our city homes. So, and most of these developers go to set up in the rural areas, because they know these are people we can take advantage of. These are people who don't know what is going on. They'll just complain and nothing will be done. So let us take an initiative to educate the grassroots persons about climate change in the language they understand. Speak to them as if you'd speak to, let's say, a child who is learning language or who is learning something. Speak to them in a way that they can relate whatever they are seeing on the ground, and that understand that this is something that needs to change, and this is a way to go if we are to change things. So in this way, at least they'll be less vulnerable to companies that come and take advantage of their lack of knowledge in this area. Yeah. So let us strive to teach our grassroots community members on this, and I think it will improve on the situation at hand.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Tracey. Final thoughts, Tatjana. You're a Wikimedia Visiting Fellow for Climate at the Global Systems Institute, University of Exeter, UK. How do you think Wikimedia communities can efficiently do more around documenting and communicating climate change? Which of these Wikimedia projects stand out for you in an attempt to documenting climate change related issues, apart from the Africa Knowledge Initiative, Africa Environment Day campaign? Maybe share with us any idea of other Wikimedia initiatives around climate change too.
Thanks. Yeah, and I really just want to say I really love what Tracey just said. Just how important it is to actually share, to share information with people in a way that actually resonates with them, because climate change does affect everyone. You just need to sort of communicate with that person, what is relevant to them, to actually get people to maybe understand and to buy in and to be interested and invested sometimes. So yeah, thank you so much for making those points. I think that's really important. Yeah, I mean, in terms of communities on Wikipedia, I mean, the biggest and I guess most relevant one around climate change is the Wiki project for climate change. I mentioned it a bit earlier, but it's basically a community of editors that has self-organized on the platform to work in particular on climate change articles. So these are people who have really, just anyone can join. And it's a community of people that are personally dedicated to editing and improving climate change articles, because they know how important the issue is, and also how much good I think Wikipedia can do in terms of sharing climate change information. So definitely that community. I'd recommend anyone here who's an editor to go and look at their the Wiki project page, have a look at the sort of like lists of recommended actions you can take to edit, places to start, lists of articles that need attention. And yeah, I mean, they also, again, recommend things like write about climate change in your context, in your country. What's happening? What are the impacts? Have a look at the news. Find some good, reliable sources that are covering impacts, solutions, changes, policy. and write about it in your community on Wikipedia. So I think that's a big one. And then, making links between a topic and climate change is also important. So something, for example, that's been done is linking the heatwave article, the fact that there's increasing intensity and frequency of heat waves, linking that with a reliable source to climate change. And then again, translating to other languages, I think is a really big one. Yeah. I'll put the link to the Wiki project in the chat as well for anyone that's interested.
Thank you very, very much. And I've gone through the chats, and yes, there are lots of links that have already been dropped. So please go through them to go through the links and read the information in the chat. Really, really, really important information in the chat too. Thank you to Tatjana and Tracey. You can drop your questions now, and Tatjana and Tracey will take the questions. If you have questions, comments, interactions, I think we will take it now. And this is the time to actually have the information and whatever interaction you would want to have. So I'm just going through, and someone is saying, thank God they got their, thank God that community, finally found, yes. So I'm really happy that that happened. At least someone can speak to or find that these things are happening. And some people never ever get help, even like just information. Nobody knows what happens to them until when, everything is done happening to them. So yes, you can drop your questions and you can have your comments right now in the comment box. How do they put pressure to see change? And I think this is Ayla. This, Tracey, would you maybe want to speak to how you want to put pressure to ensure that this change is actually seen? This was shared from Ayla. I think this is around the point of, the baobabs being uprooted and taken, out of where they originally are.
I think we can put pressure by leveraging on the existing laws and regulations. We can use litigation as a tool for this, because you find that sometimes raising your voice as a civil society, nothing is being done. So the route remaining would be litigation. So I think in the case that nothing you've done worked, I think litigation can be a very good tool to put pressure and also to get justice for environmental violations by state agency. It is a very difficult journey, but I think at the end of it all, the citizens at least get justice for violations of their environmental rights. So I think litigation is really important for someone. So yeah. And we can also put pressure as well by constant speaking out constantly, like not just speaking out once and going off. Like if it's constant, then the government will really want to seem like they are really nice people on the global eye. So constant speaking out on these injustices or what is happening will really help, as well as litigation.
So keep the pressure up, don't let it go. Let's just continue. If you start speaking up, just continue speaking up. Tatjana, do you want to lend your voice to this too?
I mean, I think Tracey's captured it quite well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And yes, we have discussed Wikipedia as a solution to supplying factual, up-to-date information about climate, the environment, and the impact of climate change and environmental degradation across our continent. And we've also heard some of the information doesn't exist yet on Wikipedia. We would have to create these things and the information. Today we not only celebrate Africa Environment Day, but also officially celebrate the launch of a month-long content campaign, the Africa Environment Wiki Focus. The Africa Environment Wiki Focus calls on everyone to add knowledge on Africa's climate and environment to all Wikipedia projects. And this is tied to what we are doing about it currently. Yeah. What is Africa Environment Wiki Focus? Who is involved? What is going to happen? And more importantly, how do you get involved? I would pass at this point the mic to Ayla and Clementine, who will be sharing more information about this. Hi, Ayla and Clementine. So just before Ayla and Clementine take over, if you still have any questions for our guests, please, you can drop them in the comment box. And just before we finish up, or we would finally take them if we can, if time permits. Hi, Ayla.
Hi, sorry about that. This whole system is not very easy. So thank you very much. I'm trying to get hold of Ceslas. Could you let Clementine in? Clementine, could you also, can we see your beautiful face, please? So just Ceslas, please, can you unmute? Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, thank you very much. It is now working.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So thank you so much, Anthony and Tracey and Tatjana, for such an incredible insight into where we are, why it's the way it is, and what we can do about it. As Wiki in Africa and Wikimedia Côte d'Ivoire, we're really excited to be able to launch the Africa Environment Wiki Focus. It's been an incredible ride, not always easy, I think, but what we do know is that there is, especially amongst the Wikimedian communities, there's a huge enthusiasm and passion, I think, for making sure that climate and environmental issues are at the top of the agenda. I think for many times it's something, we feel powerless, and I think this is some way that we can add to the story, that we can make sure that there is very much there is factual information that's being supplied, and that's to the people who need it. Thank you so much for your insights about all of that. Clementine, I want to introduce, is from Wikimedia Rwanda, and she is the facilitator of this project, which was started from the African Knowledge Initiative, which you've met Ceslas with his other hat on, and he basically is facilitating 3 subject focuses on Africa, and this is a collaboration between the Wikimedia Foundation and between Africa, between the African Union, and we are hoping that the three focuses were, the first one was in November, which was in youth, and the second one is this one, which is to celebrate Wangari Maathai, or African Environment Day, and then the third one will be for Africa Day, so Africa in general. It seems that Clementine is having problems with children who, I think we all have that issue. So in order to, I'm just going to say that at the moment we work, Wiki in Africa and Wikimedia Côte d'Ivoire are collaborating together in order to bring Africa Environment Wiki Focus to you. And so that how this has been possible is that we've been able to, there's a whole host of different resources and red lists. And just in the idea of red lists, just before I pass over to Clementine, who can explain exactly what is happening. Emmanuel could absolutely come on as well. It would be lovely to have her if Ceslas could also bring her on. Is to, sorry, to have the red list. So people who don't really know what Wikimedia is, if you see a red link on Wikimedia, it means that it's a topic that doesn't have a page or it doesn't link to an article. So it means that it's a gap that is missing in the knowledge. And so what we're trying to do is we have a whole host of red links that we would like to be filled. And then we also would like those red links to be filled with up-to-date information sourced from partners who are already researching that information and that data. So we really want to work with partners across Africa who are already working in the space and already have that research and the information that they can share. Clementine, would you like to talk about the community, how the community is going to be involved? Sorry, you are the new, so carry on. You're not now.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Ayla. This project is coming the through time, but I would like to tell you, first of all, one thing about what is Wangari Maathai. She was a Kenyan, an amazing woman. She was an activist, a political and environmental African woman. She won a very different Nobel Prize, and she won also Nobel Peace Prize. But she died, unfortunately. She is no longer. And she did many different activities to promote the climate and the environment of Africa. Here I would like to tell you or to say you about her quote, which I like very much. She said many different things about our life, about our different things which we face in our daily life. She said that in the course of history, there comes a time when humanity is called to shift to a new level of consciousness to reach a higher moral ground, a time when we have to shed our fear and give hope to each other. That time is now. That time is now. I hope that you have to understand how she encouraged us to work hard for achieving to our dreams. So the main target of this project is to encourage Wikimedia and different communities of Africa to bring their contribution related to Africa and the Wikimedia project in March 2023 and beyond. Individuals, communities, and organizations are free to contribute in the various different ways. So we send in our day in the past in our sorry, I'm very sorry. The many different communities has applied for micro grant, and we had the chance to select the person who will get the chance to benefit from the rapid grant. No, sorry, for the micro grant. So we selected around 15 communities or individuals who will receive the micro grant to participate, to facilitate them to bring their contribution to Wikipedia. So that step has already finished. We already select the candidates. Very soon they will know who will receive the grant. So then there's a period they will be focused more, as I said, on the topic which talk about the climate change of the Africa. So everyone is invited to contribute in 2 languages. We'll work in French and in English. But there is no barrier. If you want to contribute to your local language or your native language, you are welcome. You have to translate. You have to put different input on your, to bring your contribution to the Wikipedia. So this is also another chance which we have, because we are now running the WikiAfrica, which is which has the aim of taking pictures of climate and environmental around Africa.
I'm going to step in because I'm not sure if that's me or if it's
You can't hear me?
Is Clementine having?
You can't hear me? Hello?
Sorry, I thought it was me. I think it's me. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So I would like to say the last thing. The last one is to tell you about the timeline of this project. As you said, today is the launch of this project, and it will be running during this period of March. It is only for one month. So that is why we encourage you to start now. Bring your contribution, please. Don't be hesitate to contribute. Encourage your communities, your member. Everyone is invited to contribute. I don't know if Ayla has anything to add, but briefly is that I encourage you to visit our meta page. There you can find more information about this project. You can find about the resources which will help you to increase or to do research and create your articles very easily and rapidly. And we have there a list of red lists which you can ameliorate, you can create. We try to list many different articles there. You can visit our meta page and read more information about this project. Thank you very much. I don't know if Ayla has anything to add. Thank you.
Sorry, my connection was a bit wobbly. I also want to just quickly introduce Emmanuel, who is one of our partners from Wikimedia Côte d'Ivoire, and they've been instrumental. Emmanuel has been absolutely amazing in getting the jury process sorted so that we had nearly 60 applications for the micro grants and only $22,000 to distribute. So you can imagine that she and her jury team had a really hard time of it. So Emmanuel, do you want to just say something? I'm sure people would be happy if you prefer to speak in French, but it's up to you. Ceslas, could you unmute her? Okay, Emmanuel, I think you should be able to.
Good evening, everybody, and I'm very happy to be here this evening. Yes, the thing I can say before everything is just to thank you for all the requests we received. Congratulations to people who sent their requested, and I want to encourage people to be part of this program, this project. Even if you didn't send a request, alone or in groups.
We can't.
Alone or in group. let us be involved for this program. That's what I can say.
Great, thank you so much. That's brilliant. So we just want to say quickly that the final selection for the events haven't necessarily been communicated yet. We probably will only be able to share that on Monday. But but what we are making sure of is that there's a great distribution across the different communities from across Africa. So if you are wanting to contribute, please, there are many ways of doing so. You can either contribute on your own, but we do encourage you, if you're new to Wikimedia, to join up with one of the Wikimedia groups that are in your country in order to help contribute. If you are passionate about both climate and environment and wish to also contribute, please will you connect with us? You're absolutely happy. We're happy to support you. There are many training programs so that we can also connect you if there's nothing happening in your space. And there are many different ways where you can contribute. So you can translate, you can add, and if you're a partner, if something is specifically, if you are working in this space, please contact us. If you have research, if you have reports, if you have data that you think will add to the knowledge, please help us to make sure that that is shared with the rest of Africa, so that understanding of climate and the risks and everything is much better. So thank you so much. Thank you to the community for supporting this project. And I'm sorry, I'm putting it back to you, Anthony and Ceslaus, please take it away. Are there any questions? Sorry, do you have any questions for anyone who wishes to ask? No? Okay, all right. Anthony, do you want to, and Ceslaus, do you want to carry on?
Okay, thank you very much, Ayla, and thank you to Emmanuel, thank you to Clementine. I thank you to everyone who showed up, everyone who stayed till this point. And thank you especially to Tatjana and Tracey. Thanks for the engaging conversation. Thanks for the work that you do and the work that you will do in the future, from tomorrow and the nearest future. Thank you very, very much. We all appreciate the work that you do. We see it, and we hope that you would have more opportunities to do much more good in that space. Tatjana, Baleta, let me hear your voice one last time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, great to be here. Really excited about this new initiative. Lovely to hear from Tracey. It's been a great discussion, and I hope to see you all editing on Wikipedia. Keep an eye out for some future trainings that I believe will be delivered as part of this program as well. So just to keep that on your radar as well. Thank you.
Perfecto. Good. So Tracey, yeah, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your experiences here with us too.
Thank you for having me as well. I think it's a really great initiative that at least people can learn and get to access free information from you guys. Thank you for having me. Thank you as well, Tatjana, for sharing your insights as well.
Yes,
and all the attendants for listening to us.
Yes, and I would hand over now back to Ceslaus. Ceslaus, thank you very much for being the man behind the scene, making everything work. Ceslaus, here, you on the stage.
Interesting, Anthony. It's been an amazing session. In fact, Tracey, I think we need to ransack you people's library somehow to get something there. I'm sure you have something we could document on Wikipedia and other Wikimedia projects. So yes, we'll be reaching out. And thank you also, Tatjana. With that, I would say that as humans and as Africans, all of us have the civic duty to protect our environment. by every means which is deemed legal, as our lives actually depend on it. One of the interesting ways to help the fight is to create awareness around the issues of climate change and environmental degradation. The African Union, the Wikimedia Foundation, and the African Field are supporting Africans through our African Initiative to be part of the documentation of climate change in Africa is actually a call to action to all of us. How can you take action throughout the month of March that this campaign will be happening? Two associations, Wiki in Africa and Wikimedia Cote d'Ivoire, have been selected to implement the Africa Environment Day 2023 campaign through various training and content creation activities. Throughout the month of March, you are invited to create, improve, and translate Wikipedia articles related to climate change, and impact climate change in Africa. The list of suggested topics and list of resources have been prepared to help you in advance. The training session comes up on Friday, 10th of March at 5 p.m. UTC. And the training will be facilitated by Sulain Roski. And of course, we'll be sending out information to that effect. There will also be local Wikimedia activities in various parts of Africa by Wikimedia communities who will run content creation activities as regard the implementation of the projects for the campaign locally. Do well to identify with them to participate. And more interestingly, you will like this one. The Wiki Loves Africa 2023 International Media Contest is themed actually to be climate and weather. This means you can simply take photos, make videos or audios related to the theme and upload it for the contest to stand a chance to win amazing prizes. In fact, I was asked not to say it, but I will say it here. You have about at least price tags up to the tune of $5,000 to $7,000, and it could be more, who knows? So use your phone, use your cameras, and shoot away, please. All those images, videos, bring them on, and audios. In short, you can visit the Africa Environment page on Meta, or Meta Wiki as we commonly call it, to see the activities lined up for the campaign. And with that, on behalf of the Wiki in Africa team and Wikimedia Cote d'Ivoire, I say a big thank you to our special guests, Tracey, Anyango, and Tatjana, Baleta, for finding time in your very respective busy schedules to honor our invitation today. I also want to thank Anthony Ibe, the guest host, for coming through for us today. I don't know how we would have managed without you. Thank you everyone for showing up. And with that, I say, see you in the campaign activities. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Hang on.
Bye, Oteng.